A very good morning to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on this beautiful Monday morning. A great start to the week. The dress rehearsal is now over. All our preseason games are done and dusted. Now it's down to the serious business of the Premier League this coming weekend when we visit newly promoted Sunderland. Not a game that many would relish, with Sunderland chomping at the bit to prove that they're worthy of staying in the Premier League. But what of West Ham? Are we worthy of staying in the Premier League? Are we ready for the 25-26 season? We've finally signed a good goalkeeper in Mads Hermansen, and we look forward to seeing what he can show, what he can demonstrate to make our team better. But for me, there's one more signing to go. Now, unless we sell players, I think the bleeding obvious is that we need one more position to fill, and that's central midfield. We need a player that can knit together the defence, the midfield, and the attack. A player who can drive this team forward and to give it so much more pace and energy and impetus in the heart of our team. Because as much as pre-season has been a relative success in terms of galvanising the squad together, getting players singing from the same hymn sheet and all that, the glaringly obvious is that if we do not get ourselves a proper box-to-box midfielder, a player who's going to be the engine of the team, the beating heart of our midfield, then no matter how good the camaraderie is in the squad, we could end up exposing ourselves, opening ourselves up against teams who do have pace and strength in their midfield. Sure, we've got players coming back, such as Edson Alvarez, who once he's match fit, will make a massive difference in our midfield. He will provide some grit and steel to our midfield. And at some point throughout the season, when he's back, Crescencio Somerville is back, Potter may decide to use him more centrally as well. Play him and Jared Bowen just behind a front man. There's a possibility of that as well. And perhaps there may be a continued push with one or two of our academy players, such as Freddie Potts, Lewis Orford, Preston Fear, and George Earthy when he returns from injury. But as far as I can see, as great as it is to have these young players waiting in the wings for a chance to shine on a regular basis, apart from Potts, I think the rest are likely to be sent out on loan for a season before they're ready to come back to play on a regular basis for West Ham. Now, Potts could become the type of box-to-box midfielder that we need, but that will take time. If you recall, it was only in the last couple of seasons of Declan Rice being at West Ham that he eventually became the box-to-box midfielder that we know he now is. So it may be a while before the likes of Potts gets anywhere near to that level. And then when you look at the likes of James Ward-Prowse, who's been much favoured by Graham Potter throughout pre-season, and the likes of Souček as well, they can provide stability and assurance. Souček with vital goals as well. But neither of them are able to be that central midfield driving force that we badly need. Now, I'm going to talk about the players that we're apparently targeting in a moment. But before I do, if you are new to the channel, or if you've watched me before but yet to subscribe, please become a subscriber of the channel. And I've just also launched a membership scheme, so do look out for that as well. So who are the options and which of them is Potter really keen to bring to the club? There's talk, of course, of free agent Josh Brownhill, who's also a Will Salthouse client, whose contract ended when Burnley were promoted to the Premier League. But to be honest with you, for me, the fact that Brownhill is yet to sign for West Ham seems to suggest that he's probably a last resort if Potter can't get in one of his prime targets. So I think Brownhill is on the back burner for now. Otherwise, just like Callum Wilson, we would have seen him sign already. Then there's continued talks of our links to Aston Villa's Jacob Ramsey. But after hearing that Ramsey doesn't necessarily favour a move to West Ham, and now that Aston Villa have apparently offered him a new deal, I think Ramsey is quite possibly also off the list. It's a clever move by Aston Villa. If Ramsey rejects a new deal, then they were going to have to sell him anyway. But if he accepts a new deal, then if Villa still decide to sell him, then his value becomes a lot more than it currently is. Now, there's also Southampton's Mateus Fernandes and Leicester's Bilal El Kanous, who are also linked to us. But I can't help feeling that Potter may well believe that for this season coming up, he needs a much more experienced powerhouse, someone who really knows what this is all about, someone who's got a real sense of leadership. And that, for me, rightly or wrongly, potentially takes the likes of Fernandes and El Kanous off the list of targets. I could be wrong, but I guess we'll see. Now, absolutely, both those young players have had a season in the Premier League under their belts. But Potter may well believe that he needs much more experience to really take control of our West Ham midfield. Now, Fernandes seems to be every ITK's favourite right now, and there is no doubt that fans would love him to be at West Ham. 21 years of age, Portuguese under-21 international, almost definitely too good for the Championship, but Southampton are apparently demanding £30 million to prize him away. Now, as good as Fernandes may become, one season in the Premier League, for me, hasn't already doubled the money that Southampton paid for his services. He joined them last summer from Sporting for €15 million. Now, he was on the subs bench in Southampton's first game of the season in the Championship under new manager West Ham fan Will Still. Now, I doubt very much Still would have wanted to have him on the bench. I'm sure he would have wanted Fernandes to start, especially when they were losing 1-0 at home against Wrexham. The speculation was that the player was on the bench because there is talk of him being sold. But then why put him on the bench at all? If he's going to be sold, then don't have him available for selection at all. But anyway, Will Still did what's right for Southampton, and he brought him on with half an hour to go, and he was influential in getting Southampton the 2-1 win. Now, last season, Fernandes found the net in the Premier League 3 times and made 4 assists. He's got great strengths, no doubt. He is a good box-to-box midfielder. He's great at successful take-ons. He's a progressive ball carrier. He gets stuck in tackles. But in the attacking end of the field, he's not as prolific as many would like. But maybe that would have been down, to a poor Southampton team. And maybe with the likes of Lucas Paquetá, Bowen, Fulkrug around him, he could flourish. He's got a high energy box-to-box engine, strong in duels, excellent dribbler of the ball, but he's still developing in his final third in terms of decision-making. Now, Fernandes, for me, is a midfield disruptor, ideal for pressing systems or counter-attacking setups. But would he be right for the kind of game plan that Graham Potter has? But as suggested, might Potter want a more experienced midfielder, a more well-rounded central midfielder? And as far as more experienced midfielders are concerned, there was talk late last week of Roma's Lorenzo Pelleigrini. Now, apparently, he might be available for nothing. He might be a free, despite the fact that he's got a year left on his current contract. But as we all know, nothing is for free, because when you dig a little deeper, 29-year-old Pellegrini is currently out with an unknown injury and is not known when he's due to be back. One of the injuries that has kept returning is his hamstring that has been affecting him since as far back as 2018. He also had a metatarsal break back in 2019. But those injuries aside, Pellegrini, throughout his career, has had niggly injuries that's kept him out of action for 2 or 3 games at a time. Now, Roma are said to want to clear some players off their wage bill in order to be able to make fresh signings themselves. So if that isn't a massive warning to suggest that maybe Pellegrini is likely to be past his best, then I don't know what is. Potter deliberately cleared the decks at West Ham before last season ended to ensure that he could bring in players who are going to be more reliable and not riddled with injuries. Now, Callum Wilson aside, because we all know he was a gift from David Sullivan, Callum Wilson aside, Potter has done just that with the signings that he's made so far. So, despite his experience, Potter would be probably concerned that injuries might continue to impact as Pellegrini gets older. And I don't think Potter can risk that. But the longer we wait in signing a midfielder, the more the other players that we've been targeting or linked to are going elsewhere. Tyler Morton has somewhat surprisingly signed for Lyon. Harvey Elliott is apparently in talks with Bundesliga club Red Bull Leipzig, if he's not already signed. And just the other day, Nelson De Osa signed for Real Betis in Spain. Now, there is still faint talk that we are still interested in Club Bruges midfielder Rafael Onyedika, but he's primarily a defensive midfielder. He has played a more advanced role, but not that often. Now, had we sold Alvarez, or if Potts had not had as good a preseason as he's had, then yeah, I would still say that all bets are on with regards to signing Onyedika. But we're kind of covered in defensive midfield right now. Plus, Ardon Jajari is finally an AC Milan player, and this could be where it may benefit West Ham. Jashari's move to AC Milan means the eventual departure of Yunus Musah from the Italian club. Now, earlier in the transfer window, we were linked to Yunus Musah, and apparently he's an unwanted player at AC Milan. New coach Massimiliano Allegri, remember him, believes that Jashari is a more rounded or more all-rounded midfielder that he needs. Meaning that Musah is probably on the move this summer. Now, if he isn't already on Carl McCauley's list of box-to-box midfielders, he should be. Former Arsenal academy player, moved to Valencia at the age of 17. In 2023, AC Milan came calling and paid a fee of just over 21 million euros for his services. Internationally, he represented England up to under 19 level, but while still at Valencia at the age of 18, he made his full senior debut for the US and has since made 47 senior appearances. As far as his injury record is concerned, it's a relatively clean bill of health, where the worst of his injuries was suffered back in the 21-22 season with an ankle injury which saw him miss 5 games. Then in 22-23 season, he had a groin strain, missing 4 games. Other than that, really, he's got a clean bill of health. Now, Musah, I think, is an interesting player. His goal scoring and assist ratio is not great, but there's much more to his game. He's a typical box-to-box midfielder that West Ham desperately need and haven't had since the departure of Declan Rice. He's a versatile player who can play deep in midfield if needed, or in a more advanced role as well. And he can also cover on the right side of midfield. But it's the box-to-box ability that catches the eye. He's explosive, exceptionally quick, powerful and aggressive. He excels at carrying the ball through midfield. He contributes as much defensively as he does in attack. And he's that typical box-to-box midfielder that we're currently missing. Now, he could well suit Potter's formation styles, and he could be quite formidable alongside the likes of Alvarez and Paquetá. It would surprise me immensely if, as I've said, McCauley has not got one eye on the player already. Now, there are other teams interested, Napoli, as well as Nottingham Forest, but neither club have made an advance. Now, could a return to the Premier League and to London be tempting for him? AC Milan are hoping to get about 30 million euros to let him go, although it's suggested that they might be interested in other types of deals leading up to or near that value. Now, there's no reason why West Ham United could not make a bid for him. He's still got 3 years left on his contract, but as mentioned, Allegri doesn't have him in his plans. Now, as I said, I know that Napoli have got an interest in Musah. And you know, if he signed for them, it means he stays in Italy. And given that Napoli can also offer Champions League football, there's every chance that he could end up there rather than coming back to the Premier League to play for either Forest or West Ham. But he should be a player that we should be seriously considering. Now, the other player with an abundance of experience is, of course, Douglas Luiz. Juventus have still to sell the player because they can't get a club that's going to agree to the value that they have, which is around £40 million. Now, Luiz does come with a high salary. It's suggested he's on more or less the same as Jared Bowen is and Lucas Paquetá are at West Ham. So if we were to sign him, he'd be one of the highest paid players at the club. But experience that he would bring would probably be worthwhile. Now, interestingly, just like with Musah, Nottingham Forest, are also interested in Douglas Luiz. Now, I don't believe that Forest would get both, but if they land Musah, that leaves the door open for Luiz to potentially join West Ham. Now, there's a faint rumour that Liverpool and Newcastle are interested in the player as well. But with the size of Liverpool's squad, would Luiz want to be a bench warmer there? Or would you prefer to be a starter at the club like West Ham? I'd hope the latter. Now, I would mention 19-year-old Ben Doak of Liverpool, who had a great season on loan at Middlesbrough, but he's a winger. And I genuinely don't think that we're prioritising another winger at this moment in time. So I think quite possibly there is still one or two surprises left in this transfer window. Just like the Goldie situation, we've got a number of interest in the midfield area. But I don't think it's nailed on, as many fans suggest, that Brownhill is the signing that we're going to get. Like I said, given that he's a free agent, that could have happened already, and it hasn't. And just for good measure, just to bring you up to date on a few other things, the senior source has suggested, he's rubbished reports, that Lucas Paquetá is on his way to Newcastle. So I think Paquetá is staying for at least another season at West Ham. And it looks like players like Emerson are finding it difficult to leave West Ham. The Lazio deal doesn't look like it's happening, but there are other clubs interested in him as well. And keep an eye out for players such as Guido Rodriguez and Andy Irving, who could be on the move before the transfer window is shut, with clubs interested in both of those as well. Look, there's a lot happening. I'm sure there's going to be more twists and turns before this transfer window shuts. But for me, I think, and for every West Ham fan, I think given that what we've seen in pre-season, a central midfielder is now the absolute essential to get at the club. And I think we'll get one, but who it will be is going to be quite interesting. Thank you for watching and listening. I'll be back again soon. West Ham Weekly will be on Monday night, so look out for that. Until then, have a great day. For those of you who are working in this sunshine, enjoy.